So a while back, I made a video tutorial explaining how to improve the responsiveness of the jog wheel on the Polyend Tracker by cleaning out the encoder. And that involved removing the jog wheel, opening up the encoder, and then cleaning out the contacts. And unfortunately, that didn't work out as well as I expected, because over time, it just became unresponsive all over again. So I decided to go ahead and replace the encoder altogether. Now, at the time of that video, I had gone ahead and purchased a set of new encoders, and these are what they look like. I got these off Mouser Electronics. And these encoders are in two parts. So there's the bottom half, right here, which is mounted and soldered to the board itself. And then there's the top half, which is held in place by these four little clamps. The way you open these is just pull clamps off to the side and pop the top out. And then you can clean out the contacts. And that got me to thinking, rather than going through the trouble of having to desolder and solder a new encoder, why not take apart the old encoder, remove the top half, and then replace it with the top half from a new encoder? And that's what I'm going to do today. So hopefully that will be a more permanent solution that doesn't involve me having to do any soldering. So I'm going to go ahead and pause now, and when I come back, I'm going to walk you through the steps of doing just that. All right, so if you're following along and you're going to do this fix, you're going to need a couple of things. And it's just like before. First thing you're going to need is a 1.3 millimeter Allen wrench. And you're going to use this Allen wrench to loosen up the hex bolt that's holding the jog wheel in place. There's a small hole there. You're going to insert the Allen wrench and be very careful as you twist, not to damage the hex bolt. And obviously the next thing you're going to need is a spare encoder that you can take apart. You can see the encoder's got a set of tabs, 4 tabs in total, and we're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to pry those tabs apart so that we can take off the top half of this encoder. And then the last thing you're going to need is some cotton swabs and some contact cleaner. This is the stuff that I'm going to be using today, but if you don't have it, you can also use just some regular alcohol. So I'm going to pause now. When I come back, I'll have this open and I'll walk you through the process of taking apart the old encoder and cleaning out the contacts and then replacing it with the top half of the new encoder. So I got the jog wheel off, and just for reference, this is the small hex bolt that's holding the jog wheel in place. Be very careful with this not to lose it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and pry open the 4 tabs that are holding the top half of this encoder in place. And then we're going to clean out the contacts and finally replace it with the new top half. All right, so I've gone ahead and pried open the tabs that are holding the top half of the encoder in place. And I'm going to go ahead and remove it. This is what that looks like. Now what I'm going to do is use some contact cleaner and some cotton swabs to clean out the surface of the contacts there. And when I come back, I'll replace the old encoder with the top half of the new encoder. so now that contacts are clean, I'm going to go ahead and replace the top half of the old encoder with the top half of the new encoder. But before I do, I just want to point something out. You want to be very careful when you take this encoder apart because there's a small spring that holds a ball bearing right there. I'm not sure if I can focus into that. But please be very careful because it can easily pop out. And if it does, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get it back in place. And then all I got to do now is just pry the tabs back in place, put the jog wheel back on, and test it out and see if everything worked. So now that the unit's back together, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and verify that everything is working correctly. So let's go ahead and go to Sample Editor, and here we go. Yep, it looks like it's working to me. So that is happy days. And I guess time will tell if this is a permanent solution, but if it isn't, we'll be back with a new tutorial showing you how to replace the entire encoder altogether. So someone who maybe doesn't want to ship their unit out to get serviced, or maybe just doesn't feel comfortable doing any soldering, this is a pretty easy fix. All you got to do is buy a couple of spare encoders. It takes about 15 minutes to do, and you're back in business. That's pretty much it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.